Now it is my privilege to introduce our facilitator for tonight's Q&A, Mary Mendez Rizzo. Mary is an educator, counselor, activist, and actor. A Rochester native, Mary's Puerto Rican culture was the major influence in shaping her passion for education and service. She is a graduate of the Rochester City School District, earned a bachelor's degree in psychology from the University of Buffalo and a master's degree in counselor education from SUNY Brockport. When she is not acting, Mary works as an educational consultant with a focus on student engagement and accreditation, and as a wellness educator with a focus on healthy relationships, yoga, and personal safety for women and girls. Here now is Mary Mendez Rizzo and Brian Quijada.
Hi. How are you?
Okay, first of all, this is the first time I'm seeing my hair. Let me make sure it's
It
good.
looks fabulous.
So do you, Brian.
No,
I like
you
this
can't see my
little
hair. It's under a hat.
Oh, there you are. There you are. Oh my gosh. How are you? And wait, where are you right now?
I'm in my apartment in New York City.
Okay, so you are in New York City. I thought maybe you were probably in a different time zone or maybe unfamiliar.
No, seems that we're so close. I mean, we're so close.
We're
We're just,
close.
a little bus ride.
I was gonna, speaking
A
of
little bus ride.
a little bus ride. Interesting. I am so glad to have this opportunity to chat. I've actually been looking forward to Bus for a while because I think you were going to come to Rochester a couple of years ago, and or maybe it was last year. And so, yeah, so I'm super excited that I still got a chance to see you.
I know this is, though it's like so sad that, it's so unfortunate that the pandemic shut us down, but this is the closest that we get, right, to like being together right now. And I very much appreciate that. It's really nice. Everybody here. It's just, this is lovely. It's so great to be here.
Yeah. We are a small but mighty group here in Rochester, and I've had the distinct pleasure of being on stage for one of these opening night toasts, and it's super exciting. So,
I mean, magic. I got a little bit of magic. Mark delivered a little bit of the magic tonight.
You felt that?
Of course, yes.
Brian, all right. So I'm just going to jump right in with question number one that I have for you, because I am sure your Latino parents wanted you to be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer.
It's true. Of course.
How did you end up in performing arts?
I think there's something that kind of was left out of the show. It would have made, the show is long enough. It's an hour and a half on one person. You don't want to watch one person do anything much longer. But I have an older brother, Marvin, who I love dearly. He's the closest one to my age, and we were both the American born ones. If you saw the show, right, you were both. And then there's Roberto and Fernando, who are the older guys who love them, but they're a little older than I am, so we're not as close. But Marvin got me into theater. He discovered it late in high school, and I was about in elementary school, middle school when that was happening, and so he really gave me the theater bug. So I feel like I owe a lot to my brother Marvin. And then I kind of explored it on my own. And then my brother Marvin went to school to become an actor, right? And my brother was never really great. I love God, he's the most lovable, incredible person in the world.
We're not talking bad about him. We don't think
but like he wasn't so great in school, right? So my parents were just like, thank God he's going to college. He's the first one that's going to college. This is amazing. Wherever you want to go. So he went to acting school, and they were like, oh God, no, but at least he's going to school, right? And so I always had good grades. I was like amazing at math, and my parents were like, cool, so you're the one that's gonna go, right? The lawyer, engineer, whatever. And then I was just like, no, I want to do it too. And they were like, please say it isn't so.
Yeah.
Please say. So, and there came a moment where I think I just needed to make where the decision to, you know, change majors to theater and full on take it on, which
Yeah.
happened halfway through my college career. I just couldn't avoid, like, I felt like I would live with a what if forever. So I
Right.
decided to
Right.
really,
Yeah. I don't know if it was just sort of like having that similarity in culture, right? But when I watched it, I just sensed all during this that
yeah,
tension between doing what you loved and then feeling like, oh, I sort of wished my parents would buy into this,
of course.
right? Until the point where your father does. And you don't cry? Come on now.
I think I was just stunned. I was in shock. I think I don't know what I think I had a medical condition because I was so flabbergasted. I had I couldn't believe that he was just like, you have my blessing. I couldn't believe it. And it is beautiful to think, right, that it took him reading a poem that I wrote early on in my life. It took him, my mom keeps everything. My mom keeps everything.
Of course.
And she just found that poem, and I'm sure she let him read it, and about all of this, all of my daddy issues, and and he found it, and it took that poem for him to be like, cool, you have
yeah.
in a way.
Talking about the daddy issues, that one song
On my dad's knee.
Yes. So the play is beautiful and it's funny and it's lighthearted, but there's like some complexity there too, and there's some heaviness there. And here I am thinking that I'm going to relate entirely to the play when my white husband is watching it, and it was that song that he was like, ooh, that one just sort of hit. There's something sort of like reminiscent of Cats in the Cradle or something like that.
Oh my God, that's one of my favorite songs.
What?
Harry Chapin. I love that song.
There's something like this, this conflict, the conflict with the dad and living your own life, and yeah. So
yes.
that one was.
It's I think it's I think
so many moments.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think it's very much like that song, right? It's a God. I love that you brought that song up.
Well, I'm a little older than you, so I'm surprised that you know that song.
Well, I had in middle school, I had an incredible teacher who, I wanted to do musicals. I wanted to be in theater, right? And so I joined chorus, and I had a really amazing teacher who in middle school or in elementary school, the only plays that schools were doing were musicals. So it's not like I could just do a straight play. So I had to learn how to sing. And he was an incredible teacher because he made me fall in love with the Beatles. He made me fall in love. I mean, Big Bopper and Richie Valens. There was he gave me like a history lesson on American music. Amazing teacher, and I love that song in particular because it has a repeating chorus that changes throughout, right? It flips the switch every single time you hear the chorus, that it starts in a certain way in the same melody, but by the end of the song we reinterpret that chorus in another way, and I love that about that song.
And it's so melancholy from the beginning. There's a melancholy theme through it, and so I think
it's simple too. It's such a simple song, and it's so emotional.
Yeah.
I think anybody who has daddy issues just cries.
We have a couple of questions coming in through the chat. I just want to remind our folks that if you have a question, you can send it to the QA host, and we will get it to Brian. So Nick asks, I'm curious what it was like for Brian to revisit the show years after it was filmed, seeing it again, and then going through the journey of watching it get creatively edited for screen versus the stage.
I will say that it was the biggest trip. It was my first time watching the show, which seems like watching me do like, you know what I mean? Like, that's a weird thing to say, but you don't, in theater, you don't,
Yeah.
that's not something that you're really given is an opportunity to watch your own work. And it's mind blowing, right? And it's been so long, right? Since that, I shouldn't so long. I mean, long enough that, you know, I've grown some facial hair, but long, like long enough that I kind of, things surprised me even. And it's beautiful. And working with Nick and Dan, who are old friends of mine, we all grew up in the same town, who are the two members of Bitter Jester, was incredible. We used to do sketch comedy together back in the day, back when we were all in the Chicagoland area, and there was so much trust that goes in how to cut a film, like a film of the stage adaptation, like so much like comedic timing, right? Like so much timing that comes, and I trust them so much on their comedic timing that it was a joy to watch then how this stage production was adapted to film. I mean, it was a trip. It was so cool. We had a watch party, just me, my brother Marvin, and Nick, and it was a joy. It's an absolute joy. Felt like I was watching somebody else. It's so weird.
That is cool. And speaking about watching someone else, can I talk to you about Sita Chavez? Or
oh my God, yes.
like, just, I mean, super quick, because, you know, of course I start YouTube Googling all this other stuff. And so it was her video that came up on like a white bread trailer, or her trailer, and she's saying white bread. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is pretty dope. And then she does her first white bread. And I was like, whoa.
Oh my God, yes.
I said, this is not Brian Quijada. Who is this? And what is it like watching your stuff that way?
I mean, so just to give everybody a little bit of context, Sita Chavez is the actor who plays the character of B. Quijada in the very first production of Where Did We Sit on the Bus that is without me in it, which is currently being produced at Actors Theater of Louisville. It's the first. I think it's a playwrights. It's a play. I've reached a little milestone here of having two shows running at once, and it took a pandemic for that to happen. But yes, so currently also running at the same time as Where Did We Sit on the Bus, starring Sita Chavez with Actors Theater of Louisville, and it's marvelous. You know, she's somebody that I used to judge the Kennedy Center Collegiate Awards. Theater Awards, and I saw her when she was a senior in college, and she blew me away. She was amazing. And then I got to later work with her and train her how to loop, which is the art form that you guys see in the musical art form that you guys see in Where Did We Sit on the Bus. So I got a firsthand kind of opportunity to be able to pass on this skill, because she was already a multi-instrumentalist, amazing singer, right? Yeah, and so it's been really cool to watch her interpretation of it, not only just changing genders, but also just seeing somebody else do it, you know? It was kind of a little reminiscent of this, of watching this, because it's taking in the same work, right? But in a kind of a different vehicle. And it's very cool. I'm kind of really super interested in this.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna come out of theater and have like multimedia. Like we're gonna be watching a play, and all of a sudden there's a movie that these actors. Like, I don't know. I just feel like very inspired by what will come out of this really awful, horrible time.
We will learn and adapt and make it better. Yeah. But you had mentioned looping, and so. Again, I'm a little older, so when I was watching it, I was like, wait, what's he doing? Wait, what's he walking around with? Wait, where's all these sounds coming from? Wait, did he just do that and that and that and that? And now it's all, explain what that process is like. How does that work?
Yeah, so I my kind of musical picking up like of instruments came very much later in life. I remember being a kid and asking my dad to teach me how to play guitar. And it went awful. It was so bad. I was just like, this is so terrible. And I threw the guitar and I'm like, I'm not learning from you. You're a bad teacher. And so I didn't learn until I didn't learn how to play guitar until I got to college. And when I was in college, somehow I became the lead singer of a band, and
there you go.
we never played in public, which is a good thing. And we used to practice in the basement of our house that we used to live in, and downstairs the lead guitarist had a looper. Now, the more frequent, if anybody have seen looping, like great loopers like Andrew Bird, Reggie Watts, they'll use like foot pedals. And it's meant for a guitarist to lay down, a rhythm. If you don't have enough guitarists, lays down a rhythm, and then once that's recorded in, you like right, you noodle in. It arguably, it's. I'm kind of giving a looping lesson, you guys, but basically, arguably, it was created by the idea, the concept was created by a guitarist named Les Paul, which is my ukulele that you see in the show is the Les Paul Epiphone ukulele. Paying homage to looping. And so what ended up happening was I went down to the basement, I unplugged the microphone, and I plugged in I unplugged the guitar and I plugged in a microphone, and I just started beatboxing and noodling around and kind of doing covers of my favorite songs, basically to be my own karaoke machine. And that's kind of how I first got into looping, was out of just perchance unplugging a wire and plugging in a microphone. And it wasn't until much later, just like maybe I would say around this time that I started writing Bus, which was in like 2013, 2014, that I discovered that you could loop on your phone.
What?
And as soon as that happened, as soon as I discovered that there was an app to loop, I went bananas. I just went off the cuff. I'm like, because the machine itself is like $400, $500, the first machine that I was working on.
I'm learning how to
loop. The app
loop.
is like $3.99.
I'm learning how to loop. That's it.
And so I just learned how to, I really started deep diving into looping on my phone. And that's what you see. You see me, it's an iPad, but that's kind of how it started. And I just started doing a bunch of music, creating a lot of music that way. And when I started writing Where Did We Sit on the Bus, I figured that the best way to underscore it, because it was my first show. I didn't really know what I was doing, and I didn't think anybody was going to watch it. So I was just like, I'll do it on my and that's why it's built that way, is because of just a little thing that I learned in college that became life-changing.
Nice. We've got some questions pouring in. Hold on. Okay, so did you ever hang out at Nuyorican Poets Cafe?
Oh my God, yes. I love the Nuyorican Poets Cafe. In fact, the very first time I did Where Did We Sit on the Bus, that poem, was at Nuyorican Poets Cafe. The first time I ever did that piece, How I Learned to Dance, with the 3 types of dancers, was at the Nuyorican Poets Cafe. My Nuyorican Poets Cafe, to me, which for those of you who don't know, it's like a world-renowned spoken word place where there's like open poetry slams, and Allen Ginsberg used to frequent that place a lot, the beat writer, and I used to go compete at open slams just to test my stuff. The same way comedians go up on stage to do their 5-minute set, I would just go into the Nuyorican Poets Cafe and I would just say poems. And this is a fun fact too, I always came in second place. I never won once. I always came in second place. The poets that go there are amazing, and it's also such a loving place. It's such an endearing, it's all support, and after you're rated, because there's 3 kind of judges that give you your score, random judges. They're like, all right, what's the score? And they count up the scores, and they're like, but enough about the score. Let's just show them some love. And it's like, it's very beautiful. It's a very beautiful place.
Awesome. Another question. Have you been writing or doing anything new during the pandemic?
so many. So many.
So many songs, so many
too many.
plays.
I feel like too many to name. But I will say that there is. I have a tremendous respect for the people that are working, right? And I also have like, I respect the fact that like people are. I can't work right now. I need to focus on my mental health, or like I need to focus on my family, and I need to, respect, like whatever this is a really hard time for everybody. So whatever it takes to get through it. For me, it has been putting my head into the books and writing and making music. And so there's so much that I've been working on. There's like six, seven, eight separate plays that I'm working on right now. One that's really related to this one is a musical called Somewhere Over the Border, which is about my mom. It's the story of in the play, I talk about my mom crossing the border 3 days in the desert, right? And laying under a board covered with flowers on top in the back of a pickup truck to get through immigration. So it's that story. It's she left my oldest brother, Fernando. It's amazing to also say these things. You guys know who it is. You guys know all these characters. For Fernando, who is my oldest brother, my mom had him very young, 16 years old, and she left him pretty young to go cross the border. So she came over when she was like 17. So it's the story of her crossing the border in the 70s, and the music kind of follows regionally. So it starts with the sounds of Central America moving into Mexico, and then getting into like American rock into as we get closer to the border. And it's also an adaptation of The Wizard of Oz. So as she goes, she's like in Guatemala, she meets a boy who dreams of getting an American degree because he knows how far it'll get him. In Tapachula, Mexico, she meets a man whose family left. And when they left, right, he's just like, they took my heart when he left. So I want to reconnect with them. So I'll go with you. Wow. And then in Guadalajara, she meets a woman who has tried crossing the border 4 times, but has chickened out every time. And they're all based on real people that my mother actually met and traveled with.
I
so
love
it's
that.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about that. And that's an ensemble musical that I'm working on.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait for that.
Yay!
Yes. Somewhere Over the Border. I'm keeping that one. And so I love those stories. Those stories are so important. Those stories need to be told. They just add to, the richness of our experience. And as this play pointed out, the overwhelming absence of that is, the void. We need to fill that void with our stories.
Yes.
Quickly though, because this was actually one of the questions that I wanted to follow up on, is your parents. What was that like growing up with immigrant parents, and what is everyone's status now?
Everybody now has their citizenship. Thank God, right? And I think that's it's always a thing of it's basically living in fear and that you'll be uncovered, right? But everybody now, they've worked hard, they passed all their tests, and everybody has their citizenship, which is lovely. It's great that they, it's also much. They did it, I think, at a time when it's not as easy as it was, I think, for them, and it was hard for them. So, there's that to think about. But they do have their citizenship now, and yeah, I think the main thing that I think we discuss, right, in talking about this play is the American dream. I think the American dream for them is a beautiful, beautiful thing. It is the fact that they came to this country and were able to make it. Like the dream that they had was that they would come here and have the house with the fence, right? And that they could have a family, and that they could put food on the table and have a train set, right, for Christmas. That dream, it is a real thing. And though, we weren't like, it started, in the show, I'd say we started in a trailer home, and they moved up, we moved up to a house with no wheels. And that's that they were, I saw them manifest their American dream. I saw them. I didn't know at the time. I was just like, cool, we're moving to another house.
Yeah.
But I saw them now as a grown man. I'm like watching their journey, and I'm so proud of my parents. I'm incredibly proud of them.
Yeah.
And for us now, the American dream has shifted because it isn't necessarily like that. It's the pursuit of happiness, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the pursuit of following that we could do anything. It's not just about putting food on the table and having that fence around, you know, the train around the Christmas tree. It is that we could do it, doing anything we want.
Yeah.
And that's also a beautiful thing that's taken them a little longer to connect with us in that way.
Yeah.
But it's amazing, right? Like they are seeing it though. They love calling me when I'm on the road, or when I was on the road doing this show, and being like, "What? Yeah, ¿dónde está Brian ahorita?" Right? Like, where is Brian in the country now, telling the story of Reina Quijada? Right? Like, they love that. They love telling that. They love just hearing where their story is being told. So it is beautiful. This connection of the differences in American dreams and how they're actually quite similar still.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that was also probably my first big guffaw laugh in the play is my mother's not that Puerto Rican either.
Oh God.
Oh gosh. Okay. Another question came in. Can you talk about where did we sit on the bus? How did that evolve? How many months or years did you work on it before you finally felt like it was finished?
That's a great question. It's hard to say, right? Because I wrote Let Them in college, right? In that freestyle writing course that I talk about in the play. I wrote that poem about my dad and a lot of little portions of On My Dad's Knee when I was in high school. It was the poem that my father found, right? So it's tough to say, right? Like, it does feel like a compilation of my life's work, or like, you know, up to 25.
Your journal?
Yeah, my journal. Yeah, exactly. And so it's tough to say, right? Because I wrote some of those things and just edited them together to fit over the course of my entire life. And so it's tough to say, but I will say that like it was around 2013, 2014 that I sat down and actually wrote Where Did We Sit on the Bus, that poem. And there's another little interesting fact about it is that, so Che, I had auditioned for Che at Victory Gardens when I was living in Chicago, right? I auditioned for him and for a play, and he didn't cast me, and that's okay. And I saw him later in Colorado. We were both working on separate things, and he saw me loop, and that's all he did. He just saw me loop. He just saw me make music. And afterwards, he came over to me, and he's just like, "I know you," and I'm like, "I think so. I've auditioned for you, sir." Even though in my head I was just like, "I know who you are, Che." And he's just like, "If you ever write a Chicago story, please let me know." And he gave me his card. Didn't hear any of my writing, but somehow recognized something in me that he thought I could create a play about Chicago. And so that's why I started writing it. I was sitting waiting for, you know, the perfect role to come along, which I would be waiting forever. And I started writing. The beginning of Where Did We Sit on the Bus used to begin. It's February 1996, 20 minutes north of Chicago, Illinois. This brown boy is sitting in his third grade class in his miniature chair. And I remember starting it that way because I'm just like, if it says Chicago, he'll be interested. And obviously we didn't need that anymore because we put it much later but I remember starting the play that way just because I was just like, I want to tell a Chicago story. But yeah, anyway, so that's kind of how I started writing it, 2014.
Nice. We got one last question, or time enough for one last question. And I think you touched on this a little bit, but do you think the pandemic will change theater forever? And if so, in what ways?
That is a question that I toss around in my head a lot. I don't think, listen, theater's going to be around. Theater's been around a lot longer than we all have, and it will be around beyond us. And what is, at least what I would speak for myself, is that it has forced me to think outside the box, where I actually do think, you know, we will be experiencing some sort of multimedia type. Uh, we've exercised these parts of our brains about how to be creative in these times, about how to connect and feel like we're together.
Mhm.
That it seems bizarre that we would throw all of those, you know, like that we would throw away that part of our of the brain that we've exercised during this time.
Or what we've learned, or what
Exactly.
we've enjoyed about it. Not that it's going to replace it, but
No, but I think we've learned a bunch. I think I've learned a bunch. I've you know, I've learned a bunch about what space is within this box. You know, that we've all looked at ourselves so much more than we have ever. You know, there's some narcissists who were out there staring at mirrors, but you know what I mean? Like we have such an awareness of our bodies and our faces and what that means. So, and I think in some small ways, even that will affect theater. I'm excited for it, and I'm also really excited that artists all over, I've talked to a lot of them who are basically going to come out of the floodgates. It's like the floodgates will open,
oh yeah.
and it's just going to be like, good luck trying to decide what you want to make, you guys. Like there's going to be so much incredible material, and I'm really excited for it. I'm just super pumped.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, I've so enjoyed our chat. I feel like
Yes,
we
it's
could
great
keep
to
going
meet
on and on and on and on.
It's so great to meet you, and I'm happy we got to do this.
Absolutely. So, you know, I'm used to playing mom roles in theater. So when Somewhere Over the Border comes out, I'm just saying.
I love it. I love it. Oh yes. I love it. Yeah, no, I would, you know, it's like I actually can't wait to, once this all ends, right, and everybody's vaccinated, and I really cannot wait to collaborate with Geva again, to go get a garbage plate finally, to go kick it up in Rochester for a little.
Definitely come and kick it in Rochester. I'm a native Rochesterian, and I have never had a garbage plate. I'm sorry, y'all, but I'm also Puerto Rican, and I don't eat garbage.
No, I mean, listen, listen. I have only heard amazing things. So I mean, I hear you feel sick afterwards, but I've heard whilst eating it, it's an incredible trip. So I'm all about the experience, new experiences.
I'm gonna stand next to you, drinking my little cerveza and holding the Pepto-Bismol for you when you're done.
Opening the Pepto-Bismol. I love that so much. Oh Lord.
Geva, am I turning back over to Mark?
Hey, hey, Mary and Brian. Here I am. Thank you. That was awesome. I learned so much. I mean, you know, you think you know, but Harry Chapin, come on.
I know.
Come on.
Love him.
Amazing in math, my best subject too. Come on.
Come on.
Right?
I know.
Somehow it works. I would, those of you who have loved Brian's performance in Where Do We Sit on the Bus, I just want to second, amplify what you said about Sita Chavez, her performance at the Actors Theater of Louisville. You can go on their website and purchase a ticket to see their streaming version. It's the same material, but a whole other version, and it
was made completely in the pandemic, so
in her apartment. It was made with cameras and everything in her apartment. Yeah, and
I say she redefined the solo show, right? Being the camera woman, the sound person, everything, makeup lady.
Super terrific, and we are all looking forward to having Brian up in Rochester. Garbage plate or not, Mary, I'm with you.
Garbage plate or not.
Yeah. Thank you for this conversation. Thank you for talking about manifesting the American dream and now the pursuit of happiness. I think we're all falling into your performance because of this pursuit too. You're really bringing it for us all. Those of you who have not, who are watching tonight, who have not yet watched the film, it's a terrific film. Brian was much younger and much more in shape at the time.
It's true.
I can say that because you've said that. No, it was
true. Well, listen, the pandemic is everybody's just got to eat cookies. That's how I get through it.
It's fantastic. So yeah, those of you who want to add congrats in the chat, those of you who want to add reactions, if you have that on your icons on your Zoom screen. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Brian. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight. Onward, let's make some live theater soon too. Good night, everybody.